Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, on behalf of the Avion collection, Chef Michael Smith here, and welcome to Prince Edward Island, welcome to the Inn at Bay Fortune, and welcome to my fire garden. Of all the places on this earth, this just might be my happiest place right here. This is where we serve oyster hour each and every single day. And so tonight we're going to do quite a few things. We're going to share with you, well, a super interesting flavor right here at what I call Oyster Rock. Then we're going to check out all the rest of Oyster Hour, all the live fire hors d'oeuvre stations that we do. And then we'll come back to live again, and we're going to do some Q&A, and I've got 10 cookbooks to give away. So any questions this evening, hold on to them, text them. I think it's down below the screen here. Send them to us, and I'll answer them a little later. For now, though, welcome to Oyster Rock. This is Oyster Rock, and this is where Oyster Hour begins every single day with one of our all-time favorite techniques. So what I do is I build a fire here about an hour in advance, a good hardwood fire, maple, and let it burn down to embers, to coals. And that's what you can see right now. And this is the technique that begins Oyster Hour every single day. And we do it because this technique represents the simplicity of what we do at the inn. And you can see what I'm going to put on those rocks, on those embers right now. Freshly shucked oysters with 2 more ingredients, and I'll explain. So what we've done is we've so carefully shucked those oysters and kept them level. All of the liquid that's in the oyster is still there. You can see it. And we've added a little bit of compound butter, chefs would call it. That's what you see, the green, if you will. That is butter and lovage. It's a very specific herb. You can actually see it right here. I've got some cut right there. It's a very specific herb that has a very distinct celery-like flavor to it. Very distinct, very subtle, not a strong flavor, because we don't want to overcook these oysters. You can see how fresh and delicious they are, how gorgeous they are, all by themselves, and we don't want to overcook them. These oysters actually come to us from the bay right in front of our restaurant. They're as fresh and beautiful as an oyster can possibly be. And this technique, this is not a technique that you can sort of do in a downtown restaurant, if you will, and sort of an order comes into the kitchen and you fire up the grill and you rush one out. It just doesn't work that way. This is a unique fire-driven technique. And because it's sort of a one-off and we need that fire to die down for a full hour to get to those coals, this is how we start. And so you can see what's starting to happen. Right away, the heat of the embers starts to simmer that little bit of moisture that's around each oyster. You can see the oyster simmering a little bit, and then that beautiful lovage butter starts to melt and flavor the oyster. And that's how we do this. This is an ember roast oyster. And that could be just about any herb if you care to, but we use the lovage because I think lovage is just so subtle that it doesn't overwhelm the oyster. Now, one of the most important parts about this method is just being present. I don't want to overcook the oyster. So I'm watching very carefully as it bubbles. I'm watching the butter melt and flavor the oyster. And there's just this particular moment when the oyster just sort of perks right up. And it goes from just sort of laying in the shell, just sort of flat and laying there. And it just all of a sudden it perks right up and it's done. And that's the beauty of this method. You have to be present, and it only takes seconds. And it's not really, okay, well, how long does it take? Well, every fire is a little bit different. So this fire, whoop, biff that one. Won't be eating that guy tonight. This fire is particularly hot at the moment. So they're cooking very, very quickly. And then, of course, I've got to give it a moment to cool down. That's some hot butter right there. And that's what's going on. So this method is meant to really start and represent everything we do at the end. A very deliberate method. So we start with our favorite local ingredient, an oyster raised in the bay directly in front of the inn. And how special is that to be able to serve oysters from our own bay. And then we add 2 more ingredients. We add butter, Prince Edward Island butter, of course, and Prince Edward Island butter is legendary butter. We have some of the highest milk fat percentages on the planet. So it's not just butter, it's really good butter. And then we add the lovage. And lovage, as I said, it has this beautiful, distinct celery flavor. We grow so much of this and we harvest it at just the right time. And we blanch this leaf. It's kind of like a parsley leaf. We blanch it and we puree it into this beautiful bright green puree. And that puree is folded into the butter. One thing that's super cool, if you look here at the lovage, it's gone to flower. I just picked this a few minutes ago, and it reaches a point during the season when it first starts to flower. These flowers are very bitter, of course. The plant doesn't want you to eat the flowers. But then eventually the flower starts to release a pollen of sorts. And you can see it starts to glisten, and it takes on this particular sweetness. And I don't know how close you can get in with the camera, but you can really see it glistening in the sun there. And when it starts to shine like that, boy, that's when the bees love this stuff. And all of a sudden, that's when it starts to taste good again. It's got this, oh my God, it's so good. It goes from bitter one day to sticky, sweet, lovage, sweet celery flavor. Like, that's what it's like cooking with a culinary farm in the backyard. We just pay attention to what's going on around us, and we have all these little micro seasons come and go. And that's where we are. I'm standing on the farm. We'll see a little bit more of the farm later, but this is Oyster Rock, and this is our chance to really get things started. And there's one more element to this oyster that's so important as well. And I say simplicity, but really it's the chefs that stand here every day and their presence. They're just being here with these oysters, paying attention to them as they simmer on the embers, and just knowing that moment when they're done and taking them off and sharing them with the crowd of people. It's so much fun. It's such a great way to start our oyster hour extravaganza every day. It's a great technique. In fact, now I think it's cooled down enough. Now I can actually try one, because that's the other challenge. You know, everybody's here and the oysters are done, but we got to let them cool down for a minute. You can really see that green color. That is just such an intense color from the lovage. Not every herb does that. Basil, for instance, wouldn't get that green. It loses its color. But lovage somehow sets its color. So delicious. I can't resist. I got to have one. Ah, yes. Lovage and butter and oysters. Welcome to Oyster Hour. And now, well, now what we're going to do is we're going to cut to a video that we actually shot yesterday. We were a little worried about rain here today. We wanted to be super certain we didn't get rained out. There's all this expensive camera gear here with me right now. So we shot a video yesterday showing all these other flavor stations. So we're going to start at the oyster bar, show you how our oyster bar works. And then I'm going to show you the rest of the live fire stations that we have during Oyster Hour. Oyster Hour is the hour before we begin the feast. When our guests come to us here in Bay Fortune, they first come for our farm tour, starts at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They join our farmer, go for a tour of the farm, spend a full hour. There's lots of tastings along the way, including one behind me in that sort of pavilion. And then at 5 o'clock, our guests land right here at Oyster Rock, and Oyster Hour begins, and we're off and running for a full hour of crazy in this backyard right here. So that's what we're going to do now. Roll tape, and I'll see you on the other side of it. Here we go. Welcome to our oyster bar. Here we are. This is the legendary Bay Fortune Oyster Bar. We shuck, well, we're hoping to shuck at least 50,000 oysters here this year. And what's particularly awesome about this oyster bar is that most of those 50,000 oysters, and we may even hit 60, most of them are going to come to us from the bay right there, directly in front of us, Bay Fortune. So these oysters that I'm shucking right now are actually known as Fortune Bay oysters. Dennis, I don't know, he calls it Fortune Bay. We call it Bay Fortune. It's the same place. You can see the label right there. And what really matters is that it's directly in front of the restaurant, that we are blessed with super incredibly fresh oysters. And that's really what defines us here. You know, like so many of the world's great restaurants, we have one particular ingredient that defines us. And obviously our farm comes first, but then there's oysters. And it's a really fun ingredient to have as centerpiece, if you will. And so, shall we get ready? How we doing here? Icing away. Our preferred way of serving oysters here, most of those 50, 60,000 oysters are going to be served with our signature topping. It's a beautiful way to serve an oyster to start. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, from Bay Fortune with Bloody Mary ice. Here we are. Wow, applause. Look at that. That's all for Dennis, our fisherman. And Bloody Mary ice. Yeah, so what we do, sort of our ethos, if you will, is oyster shuckers. And you can see right here what we do. We start with a very deliberate mix of oysters and ice. Those oysters are nice and cold. And we wait until the dead last second. Our guests are right here. We're not pre-shucking the oyster. So the oyster is nice and cold. We properly shuck it, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then we top it with ice. And creatively, that's what sort of got us there, was the idea that we want to keep the oyster chilly. We want the oyster eating experience to be a chilly one. And so we've got grown-up slushy, frozen Bloody Mary ice. It's a properly crafted Bloody Mary. There's Logan spooning away, right down to the local vodka. And then we add a touch of sugar to the mix. Proper Bloody Mary, and then we add a touch of sugar. And that little bit of sugar, well, the chef might call it a granite. Well, it prevents it from freezing rock solid so that we can sort of scrape it like a slushy. And it's just a wonderful way to eat the oyster. It's our signature, if you will. And so come a little closer. I'll show you how I shuck the oyster. You can see these beautiful oysters. The characteristics of these are truly world-class. That's as good as an oyster gets. Nice, deep, beautiful cup, clearly defined flat top, nice round, and a hinge. And as I shuck, I'm aware of several secrets, if you will. The first being that my knife is never a lever. It's always a key in the lock. So my first move is into that hinge. I protect my fingers for a moment, and then I turn it, twist it. What I've just done is broken a little muscle that's right below my finger. So now I'm going to find that muscle and scrape it. Make sure I preserve that muscle without gouging into the oyster. And you can see for yourself, the oyster is not connected to the shell. It just sits there. But this particular little muscle is connected to the shell. So I'm conscious of it. I'm scraping above it and I'm scraping below it. And that releases the oyster from the shell. We also, as we shuck, we're trying to be as conscious as possible of leveling the oyster. So all of us that are shucking right now, we're not just opening the oyster, we're not flailing around, we're not wondering what might happen. We're doing it deliberately, and we're taking our time presenting the oysters level. That's what the white oyster shells are. The white oyster shells have been bleached. They get washed every single day, and we use them upside down as a nice little leveling sort of spot that allows us to just quickly, I can do this in just 1 second flat, just reach over and find a quick level. Boom, just like that. We got to be fast, but we got to do it right. And no oyster should ever have its juice spilled. The juice is precious. It's a sign of an amazing oyster, a healthy oyster, and that juice belongs to the guest. Our fisherman works really, really hard to create a fresh oyster, and we work hard to keep it fresh. And so we try to preserve that because it tastes good. The other thing that's worth noting is as we enjoy these oysters, when we eat these oysters, it's the contrast within the oyster of the muscle that I'm fighting, that little scallop muscle, if you will. It's not technically a scallop, but it's a similar muscle. That little muscle is sweet. And so when I cut it properly, top and bottom, and leave it in the oyster shell with that briny oyster, it's a lovely little bit of contrast right there with the briny oyster. And so when you're eating a properly shucked oyster, you know that it's been done right because you can taste that sweet little nugget. So here we are with the oyster bar. And ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Bay Fortune, with Bloody Mary ice. Please enjoy, gentlemen. Thanks for the help. I'm going to go take a look at the smoked salmon, shall we? All right. So this is what oyster hour is like every day. We've got all these live fire oysters, all these live fire hors d'oeuvre stations going right now, and lots of focus, of course, on our oyster bar, where we're super proud of our local oysters. We also crack into a box of one other oyster from somewhere else on Prince Edward Island every single day. We have 60 different brands on Oyster Island, so in a little few minutes we'll crack into those too. But for now, let's take a look at the smoked salmon. So earlier today, about noon or so, I would have got this smokehouse going. And I do it every day, except Sundays. And come on down and have a look at it. So here's how it works. So I haven't seen the fish now for a couple of hours. I've adjusted the smokehouse all day long. We're 5-6 hours of smoke into this fish. But what I haven't seen is the inside of the fish. So I know that the fish has been properly smoked. This is a smokehouse. You can sort of see it behind me right there, the Lighthouse Smokehouse, we call it. And it is where we smoke our salmon every day. And I know the sun's right there, but let's take a closer look.
Yeah, for sure.
So the fish is a very specific salmon. I'll show you the fish inside. We'll take a quick look. There you can see where it is. This is the two of the sides right here. And this fish comes to us from Nova Scotia. The fish itself is known as Sustainable Blue. It's a very specific kind of salmon, and it's wonderful stuff. Really, really good. It's got all kinds of green check marks. It's got them all. We think it's our best East Coast choice. And no surprise when you end up with really good old-fashioned fish. Well, here, let's grab a piece.
Right. We have a good cook today, Chef.
Thank you. It ends up being just amazing fish. So what I'm looking for right here, what I'm sort of trying to judge, the first thing I see here is moisture. I can see that there's lots of glistening moisture right there, and that's critical because we've smoked this fish for 5 hours today, and that's easy. The hard part is doing it slowly, not overcooking the fish. So, I say I'm not supposed to eat when the camera's on. It's hard not to when it looks this good. So, I can taste the smoke, of course, but what I'm really particularly happy to taste is the moisture of the fish. It hasn't dried out on us. So you can sort of take a look at what Mike is doing there. Mike, you ready for another side, buddy?
Absolutely, I am. Yes.
You want to come grab it? Well, watch this. So Mike's just finished up the first side there, and he's doing our signature salmon. It's being served on a Gouda cracker. You can see the crackers there. And have a look here at the salmon coming out of the smokehouse. This is Chef Michael. Here it comes.
Here it is.
Beautiful. Look at that, what we call the lacquer on top of the fish. The lacquer. And we can see the moisture. We can see that the fish isn't overcooked. We're super thrilled about that. We've had it in the smokehouse for hours and hours and hours today, 5-6 hours. And in doing so, really easy to dry out the fish. So we're happy that we have it. All right, let's give Michael a moment there. He's gonna crack into it. So far so good. Smoked salmon's looking good. Let's go on down to the next station. So part of what happens is this is my chance to sort of step in and just double check all these flavors. We work really hard building all of these little nuances, and this is my chance after leaving the oyster bar every day to just sort of check in with each one of the chefs and see how things turned out. And, you know, we obviously taste these things in advance and sort of dial in our flavor profiles in advance, but these moments are very important. And as you look around the fire garden right now, and that's what we call this area, the fire garden, it's just so much fun to have all these people out here. You know, it's like your crazy uncle's, you know, steampunk live fire backyard, something crazy going on. And all of this based on flavor and simple techniques that honestly we can't do inside the building. You know, fire marshal's not gonna let us. All of them actually start over here to my right. And I'll just show you briefly. Well, come have a look at my office. This is what my office looks like. This is my fire tent. So it's kind of two parts here. You can sort of see on this side, we sort of store different types of wood. I keep quite a few different types of wood going. It's kind of oddly red in here because the tent itself is red. This is charcoal wood. This is wood specifically heading for my charcoal barrel. This is well-aged maple wood. This is fuel wood. Many of our food fires are based on this wood right here. And this is tamarack. This is a dried softwood that we use for kindling, for starting fires. On the other side, you can sort of see some of the tools, some of the things that we need to do the job. You know, a collection of axes, everything I could possibly need to build a particular fire. Axes, tools, things to clean with, signs. This is just the things that I need to get my day going because I run this fire garden every day. My fire tent. So let's go check out the charcoal now. This is one of the craziest things we do here is we make our own charcoal. I'll show you how we do it. Okay. So, charcoal station right here behind me. Just want to show you what's going on. So Chef Mackenzie is our chef on the station today, and she's working on a charcoal grill. And then off to the right is where we actually make the charcoal. So there's a double barrel system there where we actually make the charcoal. I'm actually gonna throw a log in underneath it. Give me a second. Excuse me, sir, I'm gonna burn your ankles. There we go. Mackenzie, you get a sec, you can stoke that for me. And yeah, so what we're doing right there, and this is kind of cool, gentlemen. Forgive me for interrupting, but this is where we make our charcoal. So you can see there's an inner barrel, and the inner barrel is full of wood right now, and we're baking it. We're baking it at a sub-combustion temperature in the absence of oxygen. And so what's going to happen is it's going to reach a certain temperature, and it's going to off-gas. All of its wood gases are going to come out, they're going to ignite, burn off, and we're going to be left with the pure carbon in the wood. And the carbon, of course, is the heat potential of the wood. That's what charcoal is. Super light, easy to carry, and also super efficient. And so this is the fiercest heat of the day on this station right here. The charcoal heat is extremely hot. Take a look, I'll show you. You can see right here what we're up against. You can see, and this grill and what Chef Mackenzie is doing is very much an homage to the street food of the world, where we so often see charcoal. It's such a common fuel, and this sort of yakitori style that we're doing here, and fanning the coals, building up that heat, and the sort of flavors that are sometimes, frankly, a finger in the eye. You know, we're trying to be a little bit provocative with this food station. Our guests have a choice. They don't have to eat the beef heart today, but they understand, most of them, that beef heart is just another muscle, that is an incredibly delicious muscle. You know, every cow's got a heart, and really, frankly, we should be using every bit of that cow to show respect, and so we do. And today, Mackenzie has brushed the beef heart after it comes off the grill. We brush it with a whiskey maple glaze of sorts that we've smoked. We've actually smoked the maple syrup. And then on top is a little bit of chili dust. And that chili dust that you see is actually our own farm chilies. We grew these chilies ourselves on the farm, grind them into a powder. And while honestly, you might not perceive the difference between our fresh chili powder and one that you bought at the store, that's not necessarily the point. The point is that we did it ourselves, that we learned from the process, that we grew the ingredient and then took it a step further. And that's what we do here. And, you know, that's how it all sort of adds up. So there it is. That's charcoal. Why don't we check out the taco pit now? Come check it out. So this is another very popular food station. You can sort of see what's going on in the distance there. We call this our fire altar. And there's kind of two scenes, if you will, going on right now at the oyster hour, from the oyster bar all the way up at the far end there, all the way down here to the taco bar. And fire altar, taco bar. What's going on here is, well, tacos are a wonderfully unique and versatile way to show off flavors. And so our taco bar, just like any good taco bar, it starts with a proper handmade tortilla properly toasted. We really place a premium on that toasting, and we're going to slip around and take a look at that. And then, of course, our taco bar is vegetable forward. We often don't have animal meats, proteins of any kind on our tacos, vegetable forward. And this year in particular, we've really leveled up our taco bar with something super special, the Skunk Works hot sauce bar. So we have a Skunk Works in our basement now where we do all kinds of really interesting fermenting and preserving. Half the time, I don't know what's going on down there in the Skunk Works. Like, some of the stuff that the team is dreaming up is just mind-blowing. And now, of course, with our own farm chilies, we are now able to make our own hot sauces. And all the world's great hot sauces are generally fermented. So we're doing that ourselves now. Let's get a closer look. All right, get you out of the sun there. So you can sort of see what's going on here, Al. I'll just get out of the way and narrate. So take a look over here, Al, and we'll let the chefs work. Al, of course, is our camera guy, ladies and gentlemen. And as you can see, Chef Chris is starting by toasting the tortillas. What you see here is a multi-stage fire station, several different things going on here. So Chris is working with a plancha. It's a universal tool in the world of fire and flame. It's cast iron, and it works so well at radiating heat, taking the heat from the fire and giving it to the chef in a very controlled manner. So underneath, he's got a little bit of a coal bed underneath his plancha. In front of us, here in the center, is the coal fire. This is the feeder fire. This fire is for the next heat. This is where the next heat is generated. The usable heat is going on right now, but we always have to think ahead in the world of fire and flame. Then you can see above, there's a cooking zone, a skillet, with a second heat zone above. Sometimes we need to grill things, saute things, cook things separately. Now take a look at the tortillas. You can see the toast is starting to emerge, that beautiful speckled color right there, which is just so essential to those beautiful tortillas. The tortillas are handmade. We're using all of our own local flours from Prince Edward Island. And then we take it to the next step. Come on over.
Yeah, it's got some bite for sure.
Okay, so you can see right here, Al, I'll get out of your way there. So what Matt has there is a multi-component taco. So let's see, we've got our rutakraut. This is a fermented rutabaga, sauerkraut style. There's a grilled garlic scape in there as well. Garlic scapes are happening right now on the farm. Matt's made a radish strawberry salsa of sorts, and it looks like we're sprinkling, is that anise hyssop at the moment? What do you got there?
Yeah, Chef, a little anise hyssop and a little chopped mint.
Okay, now this is all still just the base for the best part. Now watch what happens.
Right on the other
Here we go. All right, come on over, Al. Excuse us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. And so, as I mentioned, this is our hot sauce bar. Folks, feel free, carry on. We're good. Forgive us. One thing you don't want to do is get in the way of the guests here at the Inn at Bay Fortune. Okay, like this is real flavor here. So you can see what we have. All kinds of different hot sauces. And we're showing examples of the peppers that we grew on the farm, from Bolivian rainbow chili. And this is the hotter end. Okay, so from the far end where we have Avonlea cheddar cheese with lemon verbena and zero chili sauce. And then we start with something very sweet, very low intensity. These habanada chilies. Habanada. It's a habanero with all of the chili pepper heat bred out of it. So instead we get all of that beautiful perfume in the habanero pepper. So that's why it's on the low end of the spectrum. This is for the buttercups over here. And then here we start to work our way up. Basil and ají machero. Ají, again, one of the chili peppers that we grew last year. All of these chilies we grew on our own farm. That's what's so darn cool. And so onto the fermented carrot, and now we're starting to get hot. Carolina Reapers. Some of the hottest chili peppers on the planet, but not necessarily in our climate. Okay, this is about our terroir here on Prince Edward Island. And yes, that may be an extremely hot chili pepper to the south, closer to the equator, but in our environment, it doesn't get that intense. It's still very hot though, no illusions. Onto these ajis again. Ají pineapple, beautiful fragrance. to these peppers. And this, of course, is the point of all these chili peppers, why we grow and put so much effort and intensity into these chili peppers is because of their flavor profiles. Their perfumes, their aromas are world class. We often overlook that in the whole conversation about heat, 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 and we miss all the flavors. So this is our hot sauce bar, and this is one of our favorite spots every single day. So which one should I try? I think I'm gonna land on my favorite here. I really like the fermented carrot and the Carolina Reaper. You can see that right there. It's just a beautiful little taco. Such a nice little flavor every day. Look at that. Wonderful. Let's have a look around a little more. Let me take you over here. Wow, so much flavor. So as I walk around this this farm, as we move sort of through this fire garden, through these different environments, what's particularly striking, what I'm seeing, it's not just lots of happy guests. It's obviously my team and the team that's with us here, the team that's part of this project, because this is an evolving project. For the guests that are with us today, today is a destination, but for us, this is a journey. And the things that we do and the effort that we take, the passion that we put into our food, into all of these various little ingredients, into things that many of our guests might not ever realize that we're doing. But that's what defines us. It's trying to learn from the simplicity of food. And I don't mean the old-fashioned simplicity, because we're firmly planted in the future here as well. So as I sort of walk between these food stations and chat with the chefs and try the flavors, that's what I'm most aware of, is the learning that's going on around me. And I'm very, very proud of that. And it's not just the team that's learning, because I'm learning too. For instance, the hot sauces that are just over there. The fermenting and how to grow those chilies, these are all things that I've learned here on the job in the last few years. And some of our chefs are far more knowledgeable about these topics than I am. And certainly our farmer knows far more about this farm. And that's also what's very special about where we stand. This entire afternoon hors d'oeuvre party is happening right here in the midst of our farm. It's a very special location. You can really see what we have here. And this is tip of the iceberg. This doesn't show, of course, any of our greenhouses. We have 7 greenhouses and our upper farm. But this is what we call the chef's garden. And this is kind of tip of the iceberg. And so generally what we do is anything that we're going to grow in the soil this year, we try to put the first crop, the first rotation, somewhere in this environment. So this is a very, very diverse environment. And our guests would have come to know this while they take their farm tour before Oyster Hour begins. So there's a chance for them to engage with our farmer, to range around this farm. I can see a lot of different things here. I can see, for instance, our garlic scapes are happening right now. There's a great big long line of garlic plants over there, and they're throwing up their false flower stalks right now, what we call the scapes of the plant. And they have a beautiful sort of flavor to them, garlic flavor, of course, and a whole bunch of different brassicas under all those white lines that you see. That tends to be broccoli, kale, cauliflower, those types of plants, what we call brassicas. Last year we had quite an infestation, so we landed on these new white nets. What a game changer for us. They're really working well. I can see right behind me rows of salad greens that we're growing. You can see some pea plants that are going to trellis up right here. And I can also see where we have dill, basil, so many different things going on in this environment. One of my favorites, some of you have seen before, just off to the bottom here is quite a big thick hedge right there of what we call Jerusalem artichokes. Sunchokes, best known as, once upon a time known as a Jerusalem artichoke. And this is an indigenous plant. This plant creates quite a root, a tuber root in its sort of soil there that we'll dig up in the spring of the year. So we're setting the roots for next spring, and we'll overwinter that crop, and in the spring of the year dig up those roots. What's particularly fascinating about the plant is that it has been grown here on Prince Edward Island in kitchen gardens for thousands of years. It has very much a strong connection to our indigenous food population. So here we are. Let's wander over and see how things are going before we wrap it up. It's been really cool sharing a little bit of our fire garden with you today. And one of the last things that we'll be doing with all of our guests today is just acknowledging where we stand and all of the various flags that we fly here, from the Grand Council flag of Prince Edward Island's Ebergwa First Nation, our Acadian flag. This is, of course, once upon a time Acadia, our Prince Edward Island flag, and of course Canada. And we acknowledge where we are, the, of course, traditional and unceded territory of Prince Edward Island's Ebergwa First Nation. That is where we gather daily, and we're proud of that. And it's a wonderful place to be and to share. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to head back to, I'm going to show you the farm bar now. We're going to sort of scoot up there and do a little bit of question and answer. And thank you for joining me today. This is one of my happiest places in my world, is right here in this fire garden every day. It's nice to share. Thank you. And we decided we wanted to build a cocktail bar that we could have in the middle of oyster hour while we're having all those fun live fire hors d'oeuvres. And that was really fun to watch. I'm super thrilled with how that worked out. And so this cocktail bar is very different. We only serve 4 cocktails here. We serve beers, of course. We've got, all the local beers. We've got them all. We've got a library. If it's made on Prince Edward Island, we've got them. But really what we're here for is to explore our farm and how we can express our farm, our herbs, our vegetables, things that we forage, and how we can express those in a cocktail format. We've had a lot of success doing lots of different things here, very closely related to our skunk works, fermenting, various infusions and the like. So what I'd like to show you right now is one of my all-time favorite cocktails, and a cocktail that really represents what we do here in our farm bar. I'm going to make for you a rose gin and tonic. Now, lots of us know how to make a proper gin and tonic. Just begin with a glass and some ice, no big deal. And then I am going to pour not just anything, but check this out. You can see the color of this. This is rose gin. This is a locally crafted gin. It's made by the folks at Myriad View, not too far from where I stand. And we take their gin, and then I soak rose petals in it, a very particular rose petal from a secret bush not far from where I stand. And roses are very interesting because some roses have lots of aroma, but no color. Some have lots of color, but no aroma. And some have both. And this particular rose bush does. And this is sort of how you do it. It's kind of hard to see. I'll hold it that way. You might be able to see in the sun the color of the spirit. The roses themselves have no color left whatsoever. They're pale, they're washed out because they infuse all that color, all that flavor, all that aroma just falls right into the gin, and you end up with this sort of deep red colored gin. So let's build a cocktail. I'm going to do a double, shall we say. We'll do 2 ounces of rose petal infused gin. And look at the color right there at the moment. There's nothing too crazy about that color at the moment, but let's watch what happens when I start to add some acid to it. I'm going to add a tablespoon of lemon juice. Okay, here we go. Tablespoon of, and watch that color down there. What's happening? Look at the way the color starts, and it's only going to brighten up a little more. I'm adding some tonic now. Now, I may not be doing this exactly the way our bartenders do it, but look what just happened to that color. From this to that. We garnish our rose gin and tonic. We always garnish it with a little sprig of mint and just a few flowers from the farm. I happen to have some violas, a little bit of lavender here as well. We've got all kinds of fun little herb flowers and the like, but the real deal here is that color. Just look at that color. And I, of course, love that our guests can see that color emerge right here, right in front of their eyes as we add the acid to that rose gin. There's just something in the chemistry of the rose petal infusion in the gin that's activated by the lemon juice. And it's stunning. It's just so stunning. And now, of course, I'm going to taste this. Absolutely. Gosh, it's so good. I love this drink. I just love this drink. It tastes like rose. It has this clear rose expression, like perfume, but not too intense. and it's a beautiful gin and tonic too. So this is just a great example of the sort of things that we do here in our farm bar. We're very lucky that we have a local distillery that makes gin, makes whiskey based on moonshine. They make moonshine too. There's a lot of moonshine being made around here, some of it legally. And having that partnership with our local distillery really helps. They're also making a pastis this year with an anise flavor. Something else that we do in our farm bar, we feature cider. We love our local cider. Let's see if I got an example right here. Um, we work very closely with a company here on Prince Edward Island called Double Hill Cidery. They make old-fashioned cider the way it's made in Normandy back in France. And this particular version of their cider is particularly good with oysters. We work with these folks because we have wild apple trees on property, and we're actually making our own hard apple cider with our own apple trees with these folks. And we use those flavors here in the farm bar as well. So that's just kind of what we do here. I mean, it's not a place to just roll in and ask for a rum and Coke or something, you know, a White Russian. We don't do that kind of thing. We just do a few very distinct, very meticulous cocktails that reflect our farm. It's a big part of our program, and it's neat to share. And I'm going to have another sip. So good. And so cool to share the farm bar and our oyster hour and our farm and everything that we do here at the Inn at Bay Fortune. I'm so thrilled that you're with us tonight and watching. So what I'd like to do right now, I've got a list here, and we've got 10 cookbooks to give away. My latest book, Farm, Fire, and Feast. This book is all about the Inn at Bay Fortune, just every moment of the day from start to finish, what it takes to do our feast every night. And so we're going to send 10 of these out. The first one is going to Kathleen Meyer. The next one is for Annie Martin, and then Christine Pollock, and Lolita DiCinzio, and Colleen Baker, and Maria Rossin, and Scott Clausen, and Yamila Nahar, and Lorraine Richard, and Rhonda Roberta Daniel. You've all got a cookbook on its way to you, personally signed and autographed. And so now, why don't we take a few minutes and just do some Q&A. I know lots of you have had a chance to sort of type some questions in and send them off to us. I've got my Keurig device right here. Let's see what we've got for some questions. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with Lisa. Any recommendations for buying oysters in the prairies, AKA Winnipeg? Well, first thing I would do is avoid the local oysters. They tend to be a little chewier, and you know, you get that little, it's a hair stuck in your teeth. The second thing I would do, honestly, if I was seriously trying to get good oysters in Winnipeg, I would call the best chef in town. And I would say, who's your best seafood restaurant? Or, you know, who's the busiest seafood shop in town? I mean, I know we ship oysters off of Prince Edward Island all over the world. I'm sure some awesome oysters are going to Winnipeg. In other words, go find the busiest fish shop in town. They're the ones that are going to steer you right. That's who I would talk to. Oysters ship really, really well. There's no reason not to be able to get good fresh oysters in Winnipeg. On to Lenora. Can you make a pesto from lovage? Yes, you can. You can make a pesto from just about any green herb whatsoever. Pesto just means paste. We make pestos out of, we make pestos out of anise hyssop, out of parsley, out of carrot tops, out of garlic scapes, out of tarragon, you know, and out of lovage as well. Lovage, another thing that we make out of lovage, very common, historically speaking, herb salé, sort of a fermented preserved herbs. In the Acadian culture, lovage would have been a very common herb for that process. Lovage tends to be found in Scandinavian cooking. It's very common in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, in that part of the world, Finland. You tend to find a lot of lovage in that cooking. I like lovage because it's also the tallest plant on the farm. It's taller than me. If you ever plant lovage in your garden, make sure you plant it at the back of the garden, and it will be there forever. Okay, Durrell, can you use lovage in any seafood, specifically with salmon or cod? Absolutely, 100%. Use lovage with all seafood. That celery flavor, that distinct celery flavor, it's a very neutral flavor. It goes well and pairs well with just about any type of fish. I find chopping lovage into our chowder is something that we like to do as well. It's a great garnish for chowders, chopping lovage and parsley and chives. Thank you. Yeah, so Pam, when I smoke salmon, what temperature and what smoke are you using? So what you saw me doing today is hot smoked salmon, not cold smoke. Cold smoke we often get at the supermarket, thinly sliced, vaguely translucent, almost like gravlax. And that is salmon that's cured and smoked in a refrigerated environment. It's in a refrigerator while it's being smoked. My fish is being smoked in a hotter, warmer environment, not cooked, so to speak. So think of it, we're smoking that fish for 5 to 6 hours in that smokehouse. We're able to pull that off by keeping the temperature sub 150 degrees. That's kind of the phrase we use around here. Is it sub 150? Sub 150, sub 150. As long as we're below 150 degrees in that smoky environment, the fish will not overcook. In the last half hour, based on the temperature of the day, is it raining? Where's the sun? Is it windy? There's a lot of variables. In the last half hour, we can check the temperature of the fish, check the cook of it, and make sure that it has firmed up a little bit. But that's a hot smoked fish, and it's a wonderful way to smoke salmon. I today was smoking with maple wood, but I do keep a bit of a library of hardwoods. I've got maple on property. I've got apple of our own, cherry, and we also use alderwood here. Alderwood grows in our ditches. Wonderful, wonderful woods for smoking. Yeah, and what do we do to the salmon before we smoke it? Thank you for asking. I suggest that Pam actually knows what she's talking about too. We cure the fish first. The fish is cured for 48 hours in a mixture of salt, sugar, and what we call bay spice. Bay spice is a specific blend of bay leaf, fennel seed, and coriander seed that we grind into a powder, and then we include it with the sugar and the salt, and that is our cure. It's a dry cure, 48 hours, and then we rinse the salmon and straight to the smoker. One thing to keep in mind is that wet fish smokes best. That little bit of moisture really helps the smoke adhere. Hope that answers your questions, Pam. Come see us here and we'll talk some more. Chef Ing, Chef Guy, what is my favorite taco hot sauce and why? Well, I like, and I kind of mentioned it while I was tasting those hot sauces. We tend to think of chili peppers first as just spicy. There's so much conversation about how much heat is in the chili pepper, on and on and on. It's a very common part of the conversation. But what we often overlook is the flavor of those chilies. With intense heat comes intense flavor, intense aromatic perfumes. The habanero is an excellent example of that. The habanero, the perfume of a habanero is among the most perfumed aromatic flavors in any good kitchen, but it also comes with spicy heat. And so that's what I'm attracted to in our hot sauces, are the hot sauces where we're really expressing those unique chili flavors. We had one tonight, the habanada, kind of a clever name, habanero flavor, but not habanero heat. So yeah, that's kind of my favorites. I like a little warm spice. I don't like it to blow my mind, like the Triple H is not for me. It just burns my mouth out and I can't taste anything else. Thank you for asking. Can you recreate the smoked salmon in a gas smoker or in a big green egg? Yes, you can. If you have a big green egg, you have one of the all-time great tools on your back deck. That is a wonderful tool to have. I have a big green egg on my back deck. It's 20 years old. I've got one of the large ones. I've used it for 20 years. I also have one of the XXXXLs on the back deck here at the end. The thing is immense. It's like a hot tub. It is this big. This is an immense big green egg that we use here as a backup plan. And they're amazing, amazing tools. I can't say it enough. You can smoke all day long, nice and slow in that big green egg. You can smoke brisket in there. Or if I'm thinking it's steakhouse night at my house and I want a steakhouse sear, I can have steakhouse sear in 15 minutes. I'm at 750 degrees in my big green egg. It's an amazing tool. So yes, yes, and yes. What else? Let's see. What is the ratio of rose petals in grams to gin infusion? Lenora, I never measure the grams. I never measure. I go and pick every single rose bush, every rose petal I can get my hands on. I do about 8 to 10 harvests a year with a 20-pound harvest bag, which would be about this big around. So I'll get about 8 to 10 of those harvests. And then I take those roses and I cram them into a clear plastic container, nice and clean. And then I just start dumping gin on it. And when the gin comes to the top of the rose petals, I stop. In other words, that would be what we call a high ratio infusion. So I'm often infusing up to 18 bottles of gin all at the same time, which feels really good, I gotta say, and it's crazy delicious. But that's just a high ratio. So my suggestion, if you want to try this at home, make sure you've got a super flavorful, very aromatic, very colorful rose bush. And then I would suggest that you would infuse, a normal 750 ml bottle of gin. And for that amount of gin, you basically want to pick enough rose petals, roughly equal volume to the bottle. In other words, we're not talking like 4 rose petals in a bottle. I mean, we're talking a lot of rose petals. That's what it takes. High ratio infusion, we would call it. I hope that helps. So darn delicious. And thanks for asking, because now I get to have another sip. That color gets me every time. All right, let's see what else we have here. Thank you. Tara, my son would like to know, because he loves tacos, how big do you make the tacos? Well, we can make them really big, but we don't. Our tacos really aren't much bigger than sort of the top of that circle right there, because it's oyster hour. We have so many different hors d'oeuvres, and there's a 5-course meal ahead. So we don't want our portions to be too big. So they're tasting size tacos. I hope that answers your question. And that allows our folks to, our guests to enjoy lots and lots of them. So how would I coach a guest who has never tried a raw oyster before? I got to tell you, one of the most blessed things that I get to do in our oyster bar every single day, we make the oyster virgins our VIPs in our world. Like, there is nothing cooler than encouraging somebody to try their very, very first oyster ever. And it happens here every single day. 4, 5, 10 people have their first oyster here every day. And they're obviously legitimately a little bit concerned. I mean, you're eating a living, breathing thing. An oyster must be alive to be fresh. You never eat a dead oyster. And so, wow, I mean, that's a little squeamish, isn't it? So we have to coach our guests. We have to. We've got lots of pros. I mean, we're going through 500 oysters a day, but we've got some novices too. So it is a 4-step process. The first step is the shuck. We take care of that, pros. We shuck that oyster, but our guests still have 3 to go. And the proper way to eat an oyster, 3 steps: slurp, chew, swallow. And anybody out there who wants to come to Prince Edward Island and argue with me about chewing oysters, I am happy to take you on. You 100% chew the oyster. There's this weird mythology out there that somehow we don't chew oysters. Some of us believe this ridiculous rumor. Ladies and gentlemen, we're adults. It's called food. The only way to taste it is to chew it. And to chew the oyster is how you kill the oyster. You don't want it swimming around in the, you got to kill it. But if you are one of those people that likes to just slurp them back without chewing, just have 2. So they have somebody to talk to down there. Come on, be nice. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, we love our oysters here. And one of the things we specialize in at our oyster bar is sassy shucking. It's an oyster bar. There's no place for manners at an oyster bar. And so that's what we do. And this is kind of what an hour is like for us here at the Inn every day. And I have to say, it's just awesome to share this experience with our guests every single day. We as a team love being outside in this environment, making drinks in this farm bar in an old barn, cooking live fire hors d'oeuvres on the edge of our garden. This is just such a wonderful, inspiring environment. And there is something about sharing in this kind of environment. People relax, they come out of themselves, they meet new people, they hear new stories, they think original thoughts, the conversation flows, and that's what we do. And that's what we're all about. And that's the Inn at Bay Fortune. and it's been awesome to share every single bit of it with you. So look forward to next month. We're going to see you next month. We're going to be right back here in this garden environment of ours. This Wi-Fi thing is working so good tonight. We're going to do summer salads next month, and we're going to do them right here on the farm. We're going to show you the actual plants that we're going to make salads from next month. Some of my all-time favorite summer salads. That's coming up next month. And for now, lots of content on the website. Check it out. And thanks for being a part of the RBC Avion family. As usual, I am so thrilled to be here with you tonight, live from Prince Edward Island on behalf of RBC Avion, and just thrilled at the way we've been brought together. It's so much fun to share what we do. So until next month, Chef Michael Smith signing out from Prince Edward Island. I have only one thing left to say. Cheers. Thanks for joining me.